Practice and study are like the two wheels of a cart or the two wings of a bird. If even one is missing, the cart cannot move and the bird cannot fly. Nichiren Daishonin wrote, "Exert yourself in the two ways of practice and study. Without practice and study, there can be no Buddhism. You must not only persevere yourself, you must also teach others. Both practice and study arise from faith. This one guidance holds the key to changing our lives. It is not something far away or reserved for special people. It is a path anyone can walk, step by steady step, starting from exactly where they are now. Practice means what you actually do with your body, mouth, and mind in daily life. Study means what you take into your heart, and thinking through reading, listening, and reflecting. Some people think practice alone is enough. Others think study alone is enough. But Buddhism teaches that both are needed, because life is both action and awareness. If you act without understanding, you may lose your way. If you understand but do not act, nothing changes. The Lotus Sutra teaches that the Buddha's wisdom is deep and immeasurable, yet it also shows the Buddha walking among people, teaching, encouraging, and guiding them. Wisdom is not just an idea, it becomes real when we speak, think, and live in harmony with it. Nichiren often compared faith, practice, and study to the three essential elements of a plant. Faith is like the seed. Practice is like watering and caring for the soil. Study is like the sunlight that allows the plant to grow straight and strong. If you have only the seed, nothing appears. If you water but keep the plant in a dark room, it becomes weak and pale. If you put the plant in sunlight but never water it, it withers. In the same way, without faith, practice and study lose their center. Without practice, faith remains only a wish. Without study, faith and practice easily get confused or pulled off course. Nichiren wrote, "Faith is the basis of practice and study. Practice and study are the wings of faith. The starting point is always faith, not blind faith, but a deep, quiet decision. I will trust this teaching enough to try it. I will test it in my own life." When Shakyamuni Buddha taught, he often told his listeners, "Come and see for yourself." The Lotus Sutra does not demand that people believe without thinking. It invites them to try, observe, and confirm. In the Teacher of the Law chapter, it says that those who uphold and practice this sutra dwell in the place of the Buddha. To dwell in the place of the Buddha means to live in the state of life that the Buddha experienced, wise, courageous, and compassionate. Faith is the courage to believe that such a life condition exists within one's own heart, and that one can reveal it through correct practice and sincere study. So what is practice in daily life? Nichiren explained that there are two kinds: practice for oneself and practice for others. Practice for oneself means doing what strengthens and protects your own life each day. In Buddhism, this often includes chanting, reciting parts of the Lotus Sutra, and praying to bring forth wisdom and compassion. Practice for others means sharing the teaching, encouraging people who are suffering, and helping them form a connection with this law. Nichiren wrote, "You must not only persevere yourself, you must also teach others." He compared someone who only chants for themselves and never shares the teaching to a person who finds a great medicine but refuses to tell a sick friend about it. True joy comes not only from healing our own life, but from seeing others stand up as well. When Shakyamuni Buddha first awakened under the Bodhi tree, he hesitated to teach. The story from ancient sutras says he thought, "This law is too deep and subtle. People will not understand." But then he looked at the world and saw beings suffering from greed, anger, and ignorance. Out of great compassion, he rose and decided to teach anyway. Later, in the Lotus Sutra, he reveals that his deepest wish is that all people, without exception, attain Buddhahood. He says, "At all times I think, how can I make all living beings attain the Buddha way and quickly become Buddhas?" This vow is the heart of practice for others. It is not about forcing beliefs on anyone. It is about caring so much for people's happiness that you wish to share the path that freed you. At the same time, the Buddha never told people to believe blindly. He also stressed the importance of study and understanding. In one famous passage from another sutra, he said, "Just as a goldsmith tests gold by burning, cutting, and rubbing it, so should you examine my words and accept them not merely out of respect." Nichiren respected this spirit deeply. He wrote many letters urging his followers to read and reread the Lotus Sutra and his own writings. He told them not to follow simply based on emotion or habit, but to, quote, "base your mind on the teachings, not the person." Study protects us from confusion. It helps us see the difference between true Buddhism that leads to happiness and false views that lead to suffering. For example, Nichiren lived in a time when many believed that certain people were too low, too sinful, or too foolish to ever gain enlightenment. Against this, he pointed directly to the Lotus Sutra, which says that all people can attain Buddhahood just as they are. In the Devadatta chapter, even Devadatta, who tried to kill the Buddha, is predicted to become a Buddha in the future. In the Dragon King's Daughter chapter, a young girl of the dragon species becomes a Buddha instantly, overturning the belief that women could not become Buddhas. By studying these chapters, Nichiren gained the courage to stand up against wrong ideas, even when this brought severe persecution. Study gave him a clear standard: the Lotus Sutra's teaching that all lives are worthy and noble. When people hear study, they might imagine heavy books and difficult words. But in Buddhism, study begins with a simple question: what is the truth about life and happiness? Even a single line, taken deeply to heart, can be great study. Nichiren often quoted the Lotus Sutra's phrase, "This reality consists of the appearance, nature, entity, power, influence, internal cause, relation, latent effect, manifest effect, and their consistency from beginning to end." This is known as the 10 factors that describe the true nature of life. A farmer, a warrior, or a fisher in Nichiren's time might not memorize all of this, but they could understand the simple point behind it, that every single moment of life, no matter how small, contains the full potential of Buddhahood. To study this point means to look at your own day and ask, how can I reveal my highest life state right here, in this challenge, in this conversation, in this work? Practice and study feed each other. When you practice with faith, your heart becomes more open and clear. Then, when you read or listen to Buddhist teachings, they enter more deeply. A line that once seemed dry suddenly feels alive and personal, as if the Buddha or Nichiren is speaking directly to you. At the same time, when you study and gain even a small understanding, your practice becomes more joyful. You know more clearly why you chant, why you encourage others, and why your struggles matter. Nichiren wrote, "Those who believe in the Lotus Sutra are like the winter season, for many hardships come one after another, yet winter always turns to spring. Never has anyone seen spring turn back to winter." To someone who has not studied, this might sound like a simple proverb. To someone who has read about the Buddha's lifelong efforts and Nichiren's own persecutions, this line shines as a profound promise backed by history and proof. Teachings alone do not change people. Living examples do. In the Lotus Sutra, there is a parable of a poor son and his wealthy father. The son runs away and lives in great misery, not knowing that his father is searching for him. When the father finally finds him, the son is so used to his low state that he does not believe he is worthy of such a parent. Step by step, the father hires him, trains him, and gradually reveals the truth. At last, the son realizes he has always been an heir to great treasure. Nichiren viewed ordinary people as this poor son, and the mystic law of Nam-myoho Renge-kyo as the father's treasure. Practice and study are how we are hired, trained, and slowly awaken to our true inheritance. Teaching others is like helping more lost children find their way back. Nichiren's letters are filled with tender guidance on how to walk this path of practice and study in the middle of real life. To a lay follower who faced poverty and sickness, he wrote, "If you are of the same mind as Nichiren, you must be a bodhisattva of the earth. This means that even someone struggling just to get by, if they practice and study with the same spirit as Nichiren, can be a great bodhisattva working for the happiness of all." To another disciple he said, "It is the heart that is important. Faith is not measured by social rank, age, or education. It is measured by the seriousness of your vow and the consistency of your effort. Even chanting a small amount each day and reading a few lines with sincerity can open a wide path, if done with the heart of seeking. The balance between practice and study can shift throughout a person's life, but the need for both never disappears. There may be times when daily life feels so busy that sitting to read even a page seems hard. In such times, steady practice can protect your life and keep your heart linked to the law. At other times, you may have more room to study deeply, compare texts, and reflect. If you use those times well, you build a storehouse of wisdom to draw from when storms come. Nichiren lived under constant danger, yet he found time to write long treatises, carefully quoting lines from many sutras and scholars. He studied widely not for fame, but so that he could protect people from confusion and lead them to the most powerful teaching for their age. The Lotus Sutra and Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. Teach others. This part of Nichiren's guidance can feel challenging. Many worry, what if I don't know enough? What if I am asked a hard question? But from the Buddhist view, teaching others does not mean giving perfect lectures. It means sharing from the heart what has helped you and continuing to deepen your own understanding so you can help more. In one letter, Nichiren says that even simply chanting Nam-myoho Renge-kyo with someone or for someone is a great act of compassion. He often praised his disciples who, despite limited study, shared the teaching bravely in their villages and towns. He knew that through this action their own practice and study would grow naturally, like muscles strengthening through use. The Buddha's own life shows this rhythm. For many years after his awakening, he taught what are called the pre-Lotus Sutras. These were like skillful steps, tailored to the minds of his listeners. Only later, in the Lotus Sutra, did he reveal the full truth that he had always been a Buddha and that all beings could attain Buddhahood as well. In the Expedient Means chapter, he explains that he used many methods, but his true aim never changed. That aim was always to help people awaken to their own Buddhahood. Similarly, when we share Buddhism, we may use simple words, stories, or examples based on a person's situation. Study helps us do this skillfully. Practice gives us the life force to keep going. Faith keeps our aim pure, not to win arguments or gain praise, but to help people become happy from the depths of their lives. Another reason Nichiren stresses practice and study is that life, and even faith, can be shaken by hardship. Friends may turn away. Work may fail. Health may decline. Society itself may feel unstable, as in times of war, disaster, or moral confusion. In such periods, having only a vague belief is not enough. Practice is like the steady tug on the oars of a boat in a storm. Study is like the map and compass that show which direction leads to shore. Nichiren himself was exiled, almost executed, and attacked many times. Rather than abandon his faith, he deepened it through chanting and through returning again and again to the Lotus Sutra to confirm its truth. He wrote, "When great evil occurs, great good follows." This was not blind optimism. It was wisdom based on the principle that the deeper the darkness, the stronger the light that can be brought forth through correct practice, grounded in correct understanding. The idea that both practice and study arise from faith reminds us that everything starts from the heart. Faith is not something given from outside. It bubbles up from the depths of life like a spring. Study without faith can become cold and prideful. Practice without faith can become dry and forced. But when faith comes first, a decision to believe in one's own Buddhahood and the Buddhahood of others, then practice becomes joyful effort, and study becomes a warm conversation with wise friends from across time. Shakyamuni, Tiantai, Dengyo, Nichiren, and many others praised in the writings. Nichiren often quoted the Chinese teacher Tiantai, who said that the Lotus Sutra is, quote, a teaching that opens up the perfect and sudden enlightenment of all beings. Through study, Nichiren confirmed that his own understanding matched this line. Through practice, he proved its power, and through teaching others, he spread that benefit far and wide. In everyday terms, to exert yourself in practice and study does not mean to live a tense or rigid life. It means to live with intention. It could look like waking up and chanting with all your heart before starting your day, then taking a few minutes to read a passage from the sutra or a writing of Nichiren. It could mean reflecting at night on where you struggled and where you grew, and resolving to do even a little better tomorrow. It could mean taking a moment during lunch to recall a line like, "Winter always turns to spring," and using it to encourage a coworker who feels stuck. Each of these small actions is a stroke of the oar, a step along the path. Over months and years, such steady effort creates a deep, unshakable core of happiness. The Lotus Sutra tells us that when even one person upholds and teaches it with a sincere heart, countless unseen beings rejoice and protect that person. Nichiren took this promise seriously and often reminded his followers of it. He wrote that those who chant Nam-myoho Renge Kyo and spread its teaching are envoys of the Thus Come One, sent to carry out the Thus Come One's work. To be such an envoy does not require robes or titles. It requires only a heart of faith, the daily effort of practice, and the humble, steady work of study. When these three work together, an ordinary person becomes an extraordinary presence in their environment, a source of hope, wisdom, and courage for many. Without practice and study, there can be no Buddhism, because Buddhism is not just ideas on paper or memories of a Buddha from long ago. It is the living law pulsing right now in every moment of thought, word, and deed. Practice is how this law beats in our own heart. Study is how our mind learns to recognize and respect it. Teaching others is how that rhythm spreads, awakening hidden possibilities in everyone it touches. When a person decides, I will exert myself in the two ways of practice and study, and I will also help others do the same, that person begins to walk the same broad, noble path as the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas described in the Lotus Sutra. That path may not always be easy, but it is always meaningful, and it always leads, step by sincere step, to the clear, bright state of Buddhahood shining within one's own life.